Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Post-College Career Advice virtual event. My name is Nicole Serrato. I am a CSF alumni, and I also work for CSF, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about who CSF is and what is a CSF alumni and who are our panelists who are going to be speaking today. So first off, CSF gives scholarships to kids K through 8th grade. And after 8th grade, when you graduate and are no longer receiving the scholarship, you then become an alumni of the program. And so we created this alumni network to be able to give you opportunities, to provide resources to you and to help you on your educational journey. Next, we're going to be introducing a few panels from what is called our Young Leaders Board. So the CSF Young Leaders Board is a group of young professionals in New York City who have decided to dedicate their time and their efforts and resources to helping alumni and help guide alumni through their educational journey, through giving advice, through throwing events, through fundraising and different aspects. And also the President Council is a part of that as well. So before we get started, I'd like to go ahead and ask you to like us on Instagram and Facebook. You may see that there's a box over here to my right or left. I'm not sure what side it is for you. We are on social media. I manage the social media accounts. We'd love to connect with you on there. We have our Instagram, our Facebook, and our Twitter. And we keep you updated with stories about our scholars and stories about our families who are receiving these scholarships. So make sure to connect with us on there. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers. So first we have Abigail, who is a graduate of Villanova University and works at JP Morgan. And next we have Priyachi, who is a graduate of Rutgers University and works at Guidehouse. So each of these ladies are a part of our Young Leaders Board. Like I said, they're here to dedicate their time, advice, and experience and share with you their journey on how they got, when they graduated from college, how did they start thinking about the workforce, preparing for the workforce. And so I'm going to pass it along to Priyachi first, and she's going to go over about 4 or 5 minutes of her experience, and then we'll go on to Abby from there. So Priyachi, whenever you want to take over.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicole. So hi, everyone. My name is Priyachi, and I'm a consultant working in technology strategy within the federal consulting sector. A little background about me, as Nicole mentioned, I graduated from Rutgers University as a finance major. I had interned within the company that I ended up taking a full-time offer for. So I worked in procurement within payments industry for about 2 years. And then I made the switch to consulting about 2.5 years ago. Since then, I've worked across various different industries, media, pharmaceutical, the government. And I think one of the biggest advice that I would like to give is use every job that you get as a learning opportunity. So what I mean to say by that is that you may not know what you want to do right away. Like I personally didn't even start out as a business major, and I didn't decide what major I was going to be until sophomore year of college. And you might decide that you want to pursue one career and you might end up shifting that focus, or you might land your dream job and you'll discover that's not what it was meant to be. But use that to your advantage and explore new opportunities to get a better understanding of what you like and don't like. As you start to figure that out, find out areas of interest and start networking within that and get an understanding of what that career or sector entails. So when I say networking, I know it's a little daunting, but talk to people that are starting out in the career that you want to be in, but also talk to people that are in managerial positions. I definitely suggest making a LinkedIn. If you're in high school, connect with people that graduated from your high school. If you're in college, connect with people that are your college alumni. You might not even realize it, but a lot of them may be working in the same industry or job you're interested in, or know people that work within that industry. And don't be afraid to reach out to people. Sometimes they won't respond, and that's okay. I've reached out to so many people and haven't gotten a response sometimes, but you can't be discouraged by that, because the people I have connected with, whether it's through LinkedIn, mutual friends, work, they've provided me with some invaluable advice. And then when you do connect with someone, ask them the real questions. Ask them how they got to where they were, what advice they can give you, what mistakes they might have made. And you can use that as an opportunity to learn because everyone's been in the same position. And most importantly, if you do connect with someone, keep in touch. Send them a message around the holidays, occasionally say hello, ask to catch up again, and stay on their radar and keep that relationship going. Another thing I do want to quickly emphasize is whatever route you decide to take, always write down your goals and your values and use that to determine whether your next move aligns with your values. And that could be anything like working in a specific sector, working remote versus in the office, making a certain amount of money, living in a certain city. I always recommend writing down those goals and then deciding based upon that. But also when you write down your goals, write down what you want to achieve within 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years of working. And I know 5 or 10 years may seem far away, but time truly flies. And at the end of the day, you want to be happy and enjoy what you're doing. You're not going to know exactly what you want to do, and it's going to change over time. I know it did for me personally, but writing down these goals and defining what you value, constantly reevaluating it helps provide more clarity, and it forces you to be more accountable. I'm happy to chat more about navigating your career, switching jobs, resume and interview prep, but yeah.
Thank you so much for that. It was great advice. And then we want to go out to Abby.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on this panel. My name is Abby Fossasica. I was born and raised in Scotch Plains, New Jersey, and I graduated from the Villanova School of Business with a double major in finance and business analytics. I began my career last year during the pandemic at JP Morgan as a private banking analyst. A quick background about my role as an analyst. Much of my day-to-day consists of speaking with clients on day-to-day banking needs, coming up with complex investment proposals, and talking about the current market and economy with clients to come up with the best investment solutions for them. One of the reasons I love my job is because finance is actually one of the most intimate topics you can talk about with someone. And as a financial advisor, I'm one of the most trusted people in my clients' lives. This means that while I get to trade stocks and bonds and focus on the market, I also use behavioral finance every day to help my clients open up to talk more about their goals and dreams and how we can put a financial plan in place to help them achieve those. I like to say I'm both a banker and a therapist rolled into one. When getting started, my first piece of advice to you is don't be afraid to ask others about their careers. Similar to what Prachi said, getting a feel for what you are interested in is the most important step to landing a job that you will actually enjoy doing. Even now, I'm always prepared with a few questions in my back pocket when I meet someone for the first time to learn more about their career, such as what do you do? How long have you been working in your role? What's your favorite part about your company and about your job? And can you tell me a little bit more about your day-to-day, just for an example? I'd also recommend setting up informational interviews with others who have a career that you might be interested in. It can be as easy as grabbing a coffee. One of the first times that I became interested in my current role is actually through coffee chat. I was speaking with a banker who told me how she was helping a client put a financial plan in place to save for his son's college education, something the client didn't have growing up. And I was really inspired by this story, and that's how I continued to pursue the career path after the conversation. My second piece of advice that I'd like to highlight is that it can be really difficult to land your dream job the first go around, and that is totally okay. I think mindset is really important when entering the workforce. There are going to be some really tough days, but everything should be a learning experience for when you take your next step. And an example of this, I have a really good one a few years back when I thought I landed my dream job working at a fashion company. I was super excited about it, and I ended up absolutely hating it and dreaded going to work every day. And to this day, I'm still really grateful for that experience because it taught me what I didn't want to do. And it also helped me get one step closer to what really brought me joy. And sometimes these experiences, although difficult during the moment, can actually be the most important ones and the ones that teach you the most. and having a positive attitude and trying your hardest, as cliche as it sounds, can really propel your future career and get you to that next stepping stone that you need to be. And then my last piece of advice is, as you start out in your career, I think it's really important to be told that it is okay to make mistakes. This is how you learn. If I had a penny for every time I messed something up, I would be retired by now. And the most important part of when you do make a mistake is to just be professional about it and to own up to it. Make it a learning experience, and don't be too tough on yourself. When starting out, you're learning, so it's inevitable that you will make mistakes, but staying positive, reflecting on it for a moment, and then moving forward is the best way to go about it. One of the biggest mistakes I made, which I'll definitely talk about, is when I first started on my first day at a job. I was trying to close out of the screen to get back to the main menu. So I clicked on a button that said close, and this actually ended up closing a client's account instead of my screen, which caused a fiasco. So I learned from this that I should always ask before clicking on something I'm not sure of. And then at the end of the day, it was completely fine. Everyone was laughing at it and had moved on. So I wish you all the best of luck as you begin your career journey, and I'm more than happy to help in any way.
Wow, that was a lot of great advice too, Abby. Thank you so much for that. And we already have one question that someone is asking. So I don't know if I established that. I don't think you were here when I said this, Abby, but when I asked the question, if you want to answer it, raise your hand, the little raise hand button at the bottom. And neither you raise your hand, then I'll just call on one of you. Okay, so the first opening question is, and just for all the attendees, if you want to ask a question, go ahead and put into the chat. And if you want to come on screen and don't ask it anonymously, then we'll go ahead and bring you on screen to ask your question directly. Okay, so here's the opening question. What about interviewing and working remotely? What are your options, or what are your opinions on whether it's best to start a job in person or remotely? And how can you get to know your coworkers? And what's expected when you only contact them through Zoom and email? So this is a loaded question. There's a lot in there. So whoever wants to take that one first. Abby, go ahead.
Yeah, happy to jump in. So I started my career completely remote. And while I thought it was going to be difficult at first, it actually wasn't. I think that online today makes it so much easier to communicate and talk with others. Getting to know someone over Zoom is essentially the same as seeing them face to face now, which is really convenient. I have started going back into the office, and I do have to say it's nice to have that collaboration in person and to ask a question, tap someone on the shoulder. But I think remote work is great, especially allowing flexibility for more people. So I think there are pros and cons to both working in the office and at home. But overall, I think Zoom is definitely going to become a replacement for some interaction. I think that'll be the new norm. And I still think there can be really valuable experiences from Zoom.
Yes, I agree with everything she just said. And then Prachi?
Yeah, I would love to add on to that. So I actually just switched jobs, and that all happened in this remote environment we're in. So I'll first start with the interviewing question aspect of it. I think one thing I would say is treat it like a normal interview, right? Get fully dressed up. Every interview I took, I was in a suit, like head to toe, because it puts you in that mindset that, okay, this is like I am in a face-to-face interview. And don't be nervous, like just treat it the same way, right? Like treat it like you're having a conversation, you're on video, you're talking to the person, practice. And I think the one benefit definitely is that, you could have notes like written on the side, you could have questions prepared. So use that to your advantage. And I think just in terms of getting to know coworkers, it's whatever job you start, it's definitely going to be, I will not say it's going to be the same as being in person because you have that intangible, but you have a team that you're working with, right? So start there, start small, work with your team, get to know them, work with your manager, and find out about different opportunities. Like there's so many internal initiatives with any company you're in. So work on that. From a consulting perspective, a lot of my time is spent doing client work, but there's so many different opportunities. So let your manager know, hey, these are the areas I'm interested in. How can I get involved? And start from there, you know. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a great advice on how to get to know your coworkers and kind of get to know your work environment. That sounds like. So we have another question that's coming from Isabella, and it looks like we're going to bring her on screen to ask this question. So Isabella is one of our CSF alumni. She's in high school right now still. So sorry, guys. Isabella, is she coming on? I think Elizabeth is just in the process of adding her. There she is.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So my question was, what are some things you shouldn't say when reaching out to someone?
Sure. Do you want me to take a first stab at that, Abigail? Sure.
Yes.
So when you say, I guess, do you, if you don't mind me asking, in terms of just building like the relationship, asking them about interviews or jobs, or just in general, just reaching out to them?
Like trying to build a relationship. So
Yeah.
like maybe you can get like an internship or like just build a connection in general.
Sure. So I think the first step would be just the basics. So like introduce yourself, say who you are, say what you're interested in. If you're in high school, like mention the high school that you're in, and then ask them, and then keep it simple. Just say, do you think we can chat sometime? I would love to learn more about your career path. And then from there, talk to them, because maybe you might end up talking to them and realize, hey, this is not something I want to do. So go from there. If you're really interested, after that, you can tell them, this was a great conversation. I would love to keep in touch. And if there's any future opportunities, I would love to be considered. And be honestly, for me, I personally think like if that person took the time to talk to you, they want to help you. So just be honest with them, tell them, because they're going to be excited that you're excited about this, and they're going to want to help you. So just be honest, be yourself, and let them know.
I completely agree with that, Prachi. You should, just introduce yourself. I think building a relationship in the beginning is really important. Don't outright ask them, hey, can you help me get this job? Just start small and work your way up. And then eventually I think you'll build that rapport that will eventually help you be able to network into that role.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isabella, for coming on. Thank you, Prachi and Abby, for your thoughtful answers. We have another CSF alumni who's going to be coming on screen to ask a question. Tiana, is that how you pronounce your name? Tiana, if you want to come on screen. If not, you can type in the chat if you want us to just read it for you, or if you prefer to come on screen. Oh, there she is. Okay.
Hi, I don't know if I can come on camera because I don't like how I look right now, but can I ask a question?
Of course.
Well, right now I'm in my senior year at Mercy College, and I wanted to know what's after you guys got out of college, did you guys end up working in the field that you majored in? Can you hear?
Yes.
Yep.
So the question is, after you graduated, did you end up working in the career that you majored in?
Yes.
Prachi or Abby?
Yes.
I could take that. I did not. So I was a finance major and I ended up going into procurement. So that's focused within the supply chain sector, and I focused on contract negotiations. So there was some aspect of my major within that career, but I didn't go into the traditional finance route, whether it's like banking or trading. So I personally did not.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for asking the question. Abby, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, sure. I on the other hand, did end up going down the route of my major, but I do have to say, I don't think major that you have necessarily determines what career you do. I work with many people who majored in wild different careers. So, some people were neuroscience majors, some people were poli-sci majors. So definitely doesn't have to lead to a specific career if that's something you're considering. But of course, you can end up in that career path if that's what you also want to do.
I appreciate that.
Great. And I also want to say, Tiana, is don't be afraid to change your mind. And I feel like sometimes that question comes from that perspective, especially when you're towards the end of your college career. And you're like, oh my goodness, I majored in this thing and I'm not sure I want to do it. And so just to give you an example for that, I myself worked in finance for 10 years and then decided to quit finance and go into the film industry. So whether, you decide to, whatever it is that you decide to major in, and my major initially was psychology and then journalism and then film. But all in all, at the end of the day, now that I'm in the film industry, I realized that whatever I learned in my psychology classes, whatever I learned in my journalism classes, ultimately is kind of created a foundation of knowledge that I can use in my current industry. So I would say that no matter what your major is, you can still use that basis of knowledge to propel you into whatever career path that you want to be in. So you're going to work every day happy and excited and want to be there. So I would say don't be afraid to change your mind. If you majored in one career, you'll be fine. You're welcome. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take the next question, which is coming anonymously. What are some tips you learned on the job that you had not anticipated before you left college? That's a good one. Who wants to take that one first? Prachi?
Oh, wait. Okay, I can go. I might think of a few more after, but I think in terms of, I guess like this plays into what Abigail had said before. Basically talking about how, she closed someone's account accidentally. I had a similar situation where, we've made presentations in college and everything. I had to send a presentation up to the president of our company. I didn't realize when I PDF'd it, I cut off half the presentation, right? It's something you would think, PDFing like a file, it's normal, but it's something that I messed up on. And it's, I guess like what I want to say is like, there's skills that you may have learned, whether it's like through classes or anything, but they will, when it comes down to it, sometimes you might just freeze and that's okay. So I guess it comes down to, even if you know how to do something, there is a good chance you're going to mess up, and that's completely okay because you're not expected to know everything. And if you do mess up, there's going to be people that are going to help you, and it's a learning experience, right? So that's definitely one of the things. And I think, this other thing, to be completely transparent, I think we go in thinking everyone who are in the jobs that they're in, like they're adults, they know what they're doing. A lot of people don't know what they're doing, and that's okay. Like we're all in the same positions, and even someone who might be high up. So I regularly work with CIOs, have worked with CIOs of different companies. I've worked with C-suite execs. There's times where they've even told me, they're like, I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. And we know, yes, of course they know, but you're constantly learning something new. So I guess what I want to say is, you might think that someone knows a lot or that they have it all figured out, but no, really, like a lot of us don't, and that's okay. So long-winded answer, but yeah, not everyone has it figured out.
Yes, there we go. So that's a tip. Like not everybody has it figured out. That's something you don't learn in college, but you learn on the job. Abby?
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Prachi. I think something that I learned is that it's okay to ask questions and to ask a lot of them. Like Prachi said, you go in not knowing pretty much anything. Even the advisors I work with still ask questions to different team boxes. And that's really important because that is how you stay always learning. And that's part of why careers are so long lasting and fun, because you always learn. The second thing that I think that I learned kind of just as a soft skill is how to write emails and how to communicate with business partners internally. That was something that I was not used to, going into my career. And there's different ways to write memos and short notes, and just coming up with emails at first was really long and hard to do. But then as you continue to communicate internally, you'll learn how to quickly turn around these emails. So that was just something else that I had learned that I was not expecting, but I find that really helpful now in my day-to-day.
I want to add one more thing, actually, that something that Abigail said that sparked my memory. I think one thing I learned is negotiating your salary. I learned that. I did that with my first job, but when you go into your first job, you really once you go in, you start doing the work, you realize, wow, I can do this. And don't be shy about your value. Know your worth and use that when you go into your second job and negotiate and ask them for what you want and what you deserve. And it's really important. And I think sometimes we get nervous when it comes to the topic of money, and I'm happy to expand on that after. But I think at the end of the day, again, it goes back to the values, but it's also about knowing your worth. And I used to be very nervous about salary negotiations the first time around, but now I go into a job and I'm like, this is what I want to make. This is what I expect. This is what I'm valued at. This is what I want. And don't be afraid to walk away from an opportunity if it doesn't meet what you want. Because if it's meant, I know it sounds cliche, but if it's meant to be, it will work out, or there might be something better out there for you. So yeah.
All right. So yeah, if you have more money questions, ask Prachi. We still have her for a good amount of time. Okay, so we're going to go into the next question. And this is following up with something that Abby said earlier, coming in anonymously. What if you land your first job and then it turns out not to be what you expected? How soon do you start looking for another one?
I think that's a really good question. And I think it really depends on the role you're in. I'd say stick it out for a few months to gain those skills in that job. I think it takes a few months to at least understand the role and to really start to become comfortable. And if after those few months you decide it's not what you want to do, I think then you can definitely start to think about, okay, what might be interesting to me? How can I make this pivot? Plus, you'll have some more skills and knowledge under your belt to then use when pivoting to a new role. So I definitely think it's on its basis, on job by job, but definitely you should pursue what is interesting and what you're passionate about. So definitely just try to stay true to yourself and be honest when making that evaluation.
Okay, great. So stay there for a little bit, gain some experience, and just kind of plot your next step from there. Sounds like. Prachi, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, definitely what Abigail said. I think it's definitely a case by case basis, depending on what the career is. You might go in and decide if you're going to completely pivot into a different industry, then it's okay to leave, right? But if it's just because you think it's not what it's meant to be, because you go in, you think, okay, I'm going to be working on this, this, and this, but really you might be doing, we all have to do our grunt work. It just comes with the territory, right? So you have to decide, okay, is the work that I'm doing, do I not enjoy it because it's grunt work, or is it really just something I'm not passionate about? And then go from there. And I think another thing I would say is there's different taboos, right? Don't leave your job right away, stay in every job for a few years. But again, case by case basis. Sometimes the work environment just might not be what's beneficial for you. It's okay to leave, but I think it's also important. I personally don't jump jobs every few months, maybe, at least stick it out for 1 year. this is my third job out of college, and I have stayed in each job about 2.5 years. So again, case by case basis, see what's right for you and go from there.
Yes, 100%. I think that I'll go ahead and add on to that tidbit. And I agree. I think that there's something valuable, like if you, as we discussed in the beginning, the most crucial thing is figuring out what you don't want to do. So, and we talked about that in college, you know, and so if you start a job and you're like, okay, this is definitely not something I want to stay in, you know, at least you found out that early on. So if you know that within the first month, it's great information, like Prachi said, like Abby said, but I wouldn't also act on it too quickly because there's a lot of experience that you can probably gain. There's something that you might not like, as long as it's not like a harmful environment and it's something more about like, oh, this is just a preference, you know, then just game plan from there, which is what I did when I made my transition from finance to the filmmaking industry. Is I took a year and I game planned, okay, what's my next steps? You know, what are my options? You know, how can I maintain my income and also make this career change or company change or whatever it may be. So yeah, I think those are all great answers. Let's see. Let's see if we have any more questions coming in. 1 second, ladies. This is all really great information. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Their question was already there. I just didn't see it. Okay, so here's the next question. Do you have any, let me see. Oh, do you have any interview tips and how important is follow-up after an interview and sending a thank you? Is sending a thank you email better than sending a handwritten note? So anybody want to take that first?
I can jump in on this. I think it's really important to think of an interview like a conversation. I think it's kind of fun to talk about yourself, you know, in an interview. Try to make it fun. One tip that I have that's helped me a lot is I wrote down like 5 experiences I had, whether it be from college or high school or a job or an internship I did. I had just like 5 core examples that I had kind of in the back of my mind that for any question an interviewer would ask me, I could pull from one of those 5 scenarios and make it fit. So that really helped me when trying to frame out, and you know, I didn't have to memorize every question and answer. I could just have those experiences, and it was easy to talk to since I had already lived through those experiences. In regards to following up after an interview, I do think it's really important to at least send a thank you email right away, usually within 24 hours, so that you know it's at the top of the individual's inbox. Handwritten notes, I think, go a long way, but it definitely depends on the situation. I don't think you have to do it for every scenario, but I definitely think a thank you email is really great and really important, just so that they know that you're grateful for their time and are excited about the opportunity.
I have a lot to add to this. Okay. So first thing I would say, when you go into an interview, before you go into an interview, research the company, right? Look at their site, look at who their leadership is, look at what their like value, the company values are. Because there's one interview that I had and they asked me what are company values. And thankfully I had looked on their site. Another thing I would say is research on Glassdoor. It is such an important tool that you will see questions that other people were asked, because people will, there's one section where it's like what interview questions that were asked. And if it's a big company, it could be specific to a specific position, specific internship. And then based off of that, like Abigail said, have answers prepared, right? You have your generic questions. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? tell us about an experience where you had to do something that didn't work out the way you wanted to. All those questions, especially starting at beginning of your career, because you don't have that wealth of experience, those are the questions that are going to be asked. And then practice that with someone, right? It depends on your level of comfort. For me, I do usually 80% of the time wing my interviews because I just feel comfortable talking. And like Abigail said, like I use it as a conversation, but sometimes that might not be your comfort level. So practice with someone and talk it out so it sounds genuine and authentic, but also well put together. So that's definitely important. And then also sometimes I will look on LinkedIn and I'll see if I know like mutual people that work within that company I'm interviewing for, because one, maybe they'll have advice, maybe they can connect me with someone who is working there. So endless opportunities, right? And then the second part of it, in terms of thank you notes, as much as I would love to send a like handwritten note and I would love to receive one, I think given the turnaround time and just like how fast paced sometimes interview processes are, they might not get to someone on time. So definitely stick with a thank you note via email. But also I will say I have gotten jobs where I haven't sent thank you notes because like within consulting, sometimes you have interviews with partners or whoever it is, and the HR coordinator, they coordinate that. So you might not get an email. So don't panic. Like I realized after like the interview, I was like, I don't have contact information for that person. I still got an offer. So obviously still do your due diligence. I think you should send a thank you note because, you know, it's nice. The person spent 30 minutes or an hour of their day to talk to you. But God forbid, if it's a similar situation, don't panic. You will not lose out on an opportunity. So yeah. That was a lot.
All great tidbits and information. I hope everybody took notes on that. So the next question comes anonymously as well. What was the transition from college to work like for you? And what was the hardest part about it?
Yeah, I could take that first. So I started out my first job and I was interning with that company for 2 years. And then I interned with them the summer before I started college. I was grateful enough to get an offer before I started, but I also decided to continue interning with them throughout senior year. I will say, no matter how prepared you think you are to be an adult and transition, it's still totally different when you do an internship, whether it's throughout college or over the summer. And when you start doing it full time, be prepared. This is like your job. This is, you know, whether it's your 9 to 5, we know the hours are not that defined, but you're not going to be able to do what you did in college. And I don't mean that to scare you, but like that is the reality of life. Like your friends are going to be busy, people are working late, but at the same time, in a way, you also have that structured. Everyone is working together from this certain amount of time, and then you get to meet with your friends after. So there's pros and cons, right? Like you won't have the flexibility that you might have had when you were in high school or college, but then you get to meet up with friends, you get to go out for dinner, you're earning money. So I think just look at it as, don't be intimidated, don't be scared. And it's going to be a transition, but that's okay. Like go with it, go with the flow, see what works for you, and definitely build out habits and routines. Like set an hour for a day to work out, whether it's in the morning or at night. Set an hour to read the news, catch up on what's going on, whether it's like within the market or in the world, everything, all of that. And I think there was a second part to that question, but could you repeat that?
Yeah, so the second part of the question is, what was the hardest part about the transition from college to work?
I think the hardest part for me personally was that I had to wake up at a certain time. Like sometimes when you're in college, you get to sleep in and you don't really get to do that until the weekend. And even then, sometimes you're catching up on errands. So that was hard.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Abby, did you have anything to add to this question?
Yes, I agree with what you said, Prachi. I think the biggest shock to me was the responsibility I had as working an actual job and having to take ownership of everything I did. If I made a mistake, it was on me. So that was just something that I wanted to add. And I agree, waking up early can be difficult. Not being able to go out at noon or 3 p.m. All the time can be a little bit difficult, but at the same time, I think it also gives your day a lot of structure and also purpose. You get to own everything that you produce, and that's really rewarding in and of itself. So I think that working is actually very fun, and I really enjoy it. I don't think that college is the best 4 years of your life. I think it gets better after college too. So don't be afraid.
Yes, definitely. I 100% agree with that last tidbit. So we're going to move on to the next question. How important was your college career center in helping your first internship and helping you find your first internship or job? And what is your advice on when your college career center, what is your advice on when in your college career to start looking for your first internship? There you go. Basically, when should you start looking for the first internship? And then how was the career center helpful in helping you find the first one?
I can hop in here. I would say go to your college career center as soon as possible. They are awesome, and they will help you get on the right path, whether or not you have an internship lined up, or if not. I remember I went into my college career center knowing absolutely nothing the first year of college, and they sat me down for a meeting, and it really put me at ease. And they gave me a game plan for how we can work together to find an internship. And they sat with me and helped me interview prep. They reviewed my resume. They really had a huge helping hand in getting to me where I am. So I would say as soon as you can, try to make an appointment with your college career center. They can only help. So that's just my experience.
Nice. Prachi?
Sure. Wow, hearing that, I wish I took more of an advantage in my career center. So I will say that's good to hear. And I think I'll add on that so I personally started, I didn't know if I wanted to be in business or not. So I didn't really utilize my career center. So what I'm going to say is definitely do it. But if you don't, or you do it later on, that's okay too. It's completely fine. I did apply through jobs through my career center. I did get interviews. Ultimately, I will say the internship I got was also because I was utilizing other networks, and I was just applying to all these different companies that just had internships. Like honestly, it's an overkill, but I probably applied to over 200 internships. And the job that I landed was through applying on my own. So definitely utilize your career center, but also look at the different opportunities. Even, again, it comes back to it, but network too and talk to people. And then in terms of when in your college career to start looking for your first internship, I got my first internship when I went the summer of my sophomore year. So a lot of times it is difficult to get an internship as a freshman, but you can do it. I know so many people that are doing it now, especially with the remote environment. You might not be able to get, let's say, the banking internship that you wanted, but there's so many different companies out there, and there's a lot of startups now, especially with things being remote. So when you feel ready, start. And I definitely recommend that. Personally, my personal recommendation is definitely try to get an internship for your sophomore year summer and your junior year. But if you don't, it's okay too. Don't put the pressure on yourself or get discouraged if you don't land that internship either. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And just to add on to that, it sounds like be innovative, use all of your networks, including the College Career Center, and start as early as possible. Even if it's not your dream internship. Just to summarize what the two ladies said, that was really great information. So we're going to go on to the next question, which is, okay, so this is more of a statement into a question. If I'm having trouble finding a job in my chosen field, Is it worth it to take a job even if it has nothing to do with my ultimate career goals?
I could
So,
take that first.
okay.
Yeah, I think that's also, it's dependent on the, again, I think it's going to go back into the case by case basis thing. It depends on, and goes back to like the point that I made before on your goals and values, right? One, what are your values? Are you looking to make a certain amount of money by the end of the year? Based off of that, then if you're not finding the job that you want, maybe take the job. If it's, or maybe you can do a part-time job while you're still searching, right? So I guess in a way, be innovative with your methods, but sometimes even if a job that you think doesn't align with the industry you want to be in or what you want to do, you will still gain valuable skill sets that can be applied. And like you mentioned, Nicole, like it can transfer over. So it comes down to your goals and values, and also like just all skills that you learn on the job, a lot of them are transferable.
Yes, 100%. So I concur with that. I think it's definitely, if you're having trouble finding a job and you're kind of like, I need it. I need the job. Like I need to, I'm out of college 6 months already, and my student loan payments are going to start up. And this is the only offer I'm getting. I don't think it will deter or it's not going to like detour you away from your career goals. It's temporary. And so, as long as you go into it with some sort of game plan, like I'm going to be here for this certain amount of time, and you'll be surprised. Sometimes jobs that have nothing to do with your career goals, you might meet someone in the company, a customer, a client that they're like, oh, what did you major in? Oh, this, really? You're working in this? Yeah, well, temporarily, that's the ultimate goal. Oh, I know someone. And so you never know, like meeting new people and creating new networks, even a job that's not necessarily, in your chosen field can be very helpful. Abby, did you have anything to add on to this one?
No, I think you and Prachi covered it.
Okay, great. I know I keep meaning to take a question for you ladies, and then you guys end up just jumping in and being amazing. So what can you do, right? So we have another question coming here. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so what should I include in my networking? As a recent grad, how can I network and make connections? Okay, I'm gonna put. Okay, so I'll just repeat the question since my messages are going off. Who should I include in my network? And as a recent grad, how can I network and make connections? Yeah, so I can start off with that. So I would say unless either of you want to go first. Okay, so I would say the best way to make connections is make connections at your job or at school. Okay, so I guess I'll just include both of those. So I would say in school, making connections and expanding your network to your teachers, joining clubs, and maybe going into the workforce and networking is a lot of people, when you first started a company, they have a lot of after hours, events and things like that. I think that's a really great way to network when you first started a job. I think that's probably the way that I networked the best is like, hey, everyone's meeting at 5 o'clock downstairs at this particular thing. I think it's really intimidating when you first start a job to say, oh yeah, I'll be there. Like the safe thing to do is like, oh, I'll just clock out at 5 and go home, And I think taking that leap of faith and just opening yourself up to meeting your coworkers in a setting that is a little less professional, it's still professional, but a little less professional, a little less rigid, off of work hours. Everyone's a little bit more, open to communicating. I think that's a great way to start networking. And then also LinkedIn. LinkedIn is such a big asset nowadays, and you can network with people across the board in different companies in different ways, mutual friends that you might have. Maybe a classmate of yours is friends with someone that you're like interested in working with or interested in getting to know. So I think LinkedIn is definitely very effective as well. And then Abby, Prachi, if you want to jump in.
I would completely agree with everything you said. LinkedIn has been the biggest help to me as I started
I don't think I
networking.
can hear you, Abby, for some reason.
Oh, are
I
you
can
able
hear
to hear
you.
me now? You can hear me, Prachi?
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. Nicole, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I was just going to say LinkedIn was a huge help. I also just looked up on YouTube how to use LinkedIn. And you can actually search through different profiles and send private messages introducing yourself, and that's a great way. I also second that going to the networking events at college is really helpful, and I think networking is an everyday thing. You can meet people on the street, at a grocery store, introduce yourself, not in a creepy way, but in any type of environment, you'll be able to meet people and make connections and stay connected after you meet them. So I think that's really important.
Yes, definitely. So we have one more question, then we're going to wrap up after this. How can I sell myself to employers if I don't have a lot of work experience? Can I use skills I learned outside of work, such as extracurricular activities or classes that are on my resume? So if either of you want to take this.
Yeah, I could start with that. Absolutely. It's like I mentioned before too, when you start out, you're not expected to have experience, and you're definitely not expected to have relevant experience. So the main thing that employers, at least I've noticed, and I'll cover a few, and if I miss anything, Abigail, please add on, but they want to know that one, like you can work with a team, that you can communicate, that you can take receptive feedback, right? Like it all comes down to being able to work in a team, get the work done. And that can be showcased in so many different opportunities. Like you said, working with extracurriculars, if you're on a sports team, that's part of being like on a team, working with a team. And also maybe find one or two like opportunities where you can have leadership opportunities, so you can show that you're able to lead a group of people or lead an event. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could just be helping out with a volunteering event. You can still talk about that. So at the end of the day, like, again, all the skills are transferable, and you're not expected to come in with a wealth of experience. I will say though, if you have the opportunity, maybe take an Excel class. That would be super helpful. If you're interested in computer science, maybe see if there's an opportunity to take coding classes. There's so many free opportunities available online. So start doing that research and see what skill sets can help you in the career that you want to be in. But if you don't know what you want to do, that's okay too. Skills are transferable, but yeah.
Nice. And then Abby, did you want to take this one too?
I think Prachi covered it. Yes, every skill is going to be transferable. You can really make a story into any extracurricular or event that you've participated in. It's really easy, I think, to kind of craft your story, and it should be independent to who you are, and whatever you do is completely fine, and you can use that to your advantage. So definitely use your story, whatever it is.
Wow, that's really great. That was a great add-on. And then if you have any final thoughts that you want to leave with them, that was our last question. We're going to be wrapping up just in a second here. So if you want to just leave them with any last tidbits that you think that you may have not covered. I would say I'll leave a tidbit first. Have fun with it. As you're leaving college, this is the beginning of the adventure. It's the end of one chapter, it's the beginning of another chapter, and just go into it with what does this day, what does this year, what does this job, what does it present in my life, and just be open and have fun with it. And if you view life that way, and going into that career and just making sure that you give yourself the flexibility to you know, you're going to still discover more things about yourself. You know, college, they say you discover who you are, discover what you like, what you don't like. That doesn't stop after college. It's going to continue. And that's more than okay. It's more than okay to continue to mold yourself, your likes and your dislikes, the career you want to follow, and or the career you decide you don't want to follow. And so at the end of the day, be kind to yourself and just be open to opportunities that you may have not thought about during college. So that's what I'll leave you with. Prachi?
Yeah, I think be true to yourself and go easy on yourself. Any mistake that you made can be fixed, and just, again, yeah, have fun with it. Like, even if you send the wrong file like I did, or if you close the client's account, like, that's okay. Use it as a learning opportunity and learn from those mistakes and move on from there. So yeah, and have fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would just leave you with, you should always bring your whole self to work. You should not be afraid to be who you are when you go into your first job, and just have an open mind. You know, I feel like there are many different types of jobs that I still don't even know exist. And, you know, having an open mind can lead you down a really great career path that you may not even know existed. So like Prachi and Nicole said, just have fun with it. And yeah, thank you so much. This was great.
Awesome. Yeah, so much great advice that was given. I'm sure our alumni took a lot of notes. So we're going to take, before we head out, we're going to take a quick screenshot of the panelists. So on 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, screenshot done. Lastly, I changed my background here. So this is our social media handles. If you don't follow CSF, we have our Instagram, our Twitter, and our Facebook. Make sure to connect with us on there. This is our last webinar for the series, but if you are on here as an attendee and you missed any of the other webinars, we do have links for you to be able to watch that. We record all of these. If you want to go back and reference something Prachi said or something Abby said, we are going to have a private link up on our website so you can come back and listen to their great advice if you didn't write fast enough. So that will be emailed out to everybody. Prachi, Abby, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for just dedicating your time and giving back to our CSF alumni. I'm sure they appreciate it, and we appreciate you as well. And with that, we're going to start our Zoom series next year again. So look out for the interview for the emails next year on our upcoming events or any events that we might have coming up soon. And I think that's it. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you hopefully soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.